Thank you, my man. My whole philosophy is if you can truly develop your people, you will be successful in any business that you're in. That's what business to me is ultimately about, developing people. And I would ask you this, if you're owning a restaurant or GM of a restaurant and you can get all the managers underneath you to do exactly what you want them to do at a high level every single time when you're not in the building, you'd be pretty excited, right? And if all those managers can get the people underneath them, the servers, the bartenders, the attendants, the front desk people to do exactly what they want at a high level without them having to be there, that'd be something really special. If everyone's bought into that same message, same vision, same mission, that would be amazing, right? That's what developing people is all about. And that should be our main focus. That should be our obsession. How do we develop our people? A lot of people don't focus on developing their people. And I've worked in this industry for a very long time. I've helped open 35 restaurants and hotels, and I've seen what happens every single time. And I can tell you this much. There's no owner that starts off and says, I want to have pretty good food, decent experience. I want it to be like a nice place. I want it to be good, as long as it's good. Every owner is like, I want this to be the best, right? No matter what. If they're selling burgers, if they're selling steaks, it doesn't matter. If it's a 5-star hotel, 3-star hotel, it doesn't matter. We want to be the best in our field. We want to have the best food, the best product. We want to have the best experience. I want to be known for our experience. I want to have that amazing experience. I want to be all about hospitality. I want to be the best. But then they open up, and a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, they fall very short from the mark. And most of these people are still successful. They're still in the green. But they fall very short from their vision and their goal of what they wanted to do. And that's because I noticed a trend is that they're willing to spend all this money in the buyout, right? Millions and millions on the buyout. They're willing to hire a chef, spend millions of dollars on equipment, millions of dollars on the development of the actual food itself, the product itself. But they never invest in the training piece for the front of the house, for the front people that are facing your guests. They don't spend any money. What usually happens is they're opening, and then they're like, a month comes down, to opening time, to launch, and they're like, hey, by the way, the GM who's stressed out, who's working 18 hours a day for the last 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, hey, can you do me a favor and make all the training for the new staff and then deliver it to them? And they're already stressed out. They're already not seeing their families. They're already not getting sleep. And they're like, by the way, I'm going to put you in charge of this huge component, the forward-facing employee that's talking to the guest. I'm going to have you do that training. So what do you get? Diminished results, of course, because they're rushing to trying to put something together. They're not classically trained to develop that stuff. And then they get diminished results, right? It's unorganized. It's not clean. It doesn't send the message. There's no vision. There's no buy-in. And then what happens? It's every man for themselves. Dog eat dog, right? Opens up, and it's kind of like, hopefully you got a little bit of what we're trying to tell you. Now go do your thing. To actually get something special, to actually get your mission and vision, to actually get buy-in, it takes a lot of work. It's not a form, right? It's not a document. It's not talking to someone for an hour and saying, hey, here's what we're trying to do. There's a lot that goes into it. And that's why people fail so much at what they're trying to accomplish when it comes to their employees talking to guests. And one thing that's really important to understand is that your people who are talking to your guests, those front of the house people, whether they're the parking attendants, whether it's a front desk, whether it's spa, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's your management team, whoever it is, they're literally the representation of your brand's voice and your brand's vision, your brand value. They're in control of your money. They're in control of your buy-in. That's what separates you from your competition. So when you start a business, right? Common business model, pretty simple. Want to start a business? You find a really big demand in the market, and then you create a business that meets that demand, and then you fill that demand. Pretty basic business strategy. Right now, there's a demand for clubs, right? There's a demand for food. There's a demand for hotels. But it's also saturated. Saturated clubs, there's a lot of clubs, there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of hotels. But one thing that there's a huge demand in the market that people are craving is hospitality, elevated hospitality. And use yourselves as case studies. Because who in this room can say, I go to a restaurant, I go to a hotel, I go to even my bank, anything where I'm spending my money doing business with someone and I confidently can say I'm going to get a really good experience consistently. It's rare. It's rare to get that consistent guest experience, that hospitality where you honestly feel like you're valued. You honestly feel like they care about your money. They care about you. Most of the time, it ends up being transactional, wherever you go. So right now is a moment where it's so easy to separate yourself from your competition just by focusing on giving the guest experience. But to do that, you have to build and nurture and develop your people. That's the number one thing. That's the secret sauce that everybody's sleeping on. And as AI becomes more prevalent, as all these businesses start trying to take away the human element, right? You're seeing in LA, they have fully automated robots that run restaurants. They're trying to do that. They're trying to get that piece in. How do we eliminate people, eliminate costs with technology? People are going to crave more and more and more the human interaction, hospitality, and people that care. Because when you have a transactional person, an order taker, that does not feel like human interaction, right? That just feels like a process that they're trying to get through. So that's why I preach and talk about this all the time. This should be your main focus. Now, a lot of people think that success lies in documents or success lies in words, meaning that I'm going to teach my staff what words to say, and then they'll be able to give hospitality. And that's not the case. If that was the case, this job, this part of it would be very, very easy. But reality is, the true secret sauce into developing your people, getting what you want, getting that hospitality, taking it to the next level, being that rare breed that actually delivers elevated hospitality consistently, lies in leadership. Bottom line. And sadly, leadership is lacking because there's management and there's leadership. Everyone starts off in management when you're a baby, right? And you're supposed to develop into a leader. And there's a big freaking difference between a manager and a leader. You need leaders to be able to lead, to be able to inspire, to be able to nurture, to be able to train, to be able to develop. You have to have true leadership. The core truth is 90% of restaurants, clubs, hotels, whatever, focus on the wrong things. Does anybody here have an easy schedule? Raise your hand, please. Okay, about half of you. I'm joking. No one has an easy schedule here. Everyone's working hard. Everyone's working extra hours. Everyone's putting in the work. Everyone's working their butts off. But again, it's focusing on the right things. Understanding what's important. What are our goals? What is my mission? What is our mission? How do I focus on that to get to my mission versus putting out fires all day? Versus just checking boxes or doing tasks. Now, what if I told you that there's 5 things that you could do to elevate your venue forever? 5 things that you can start today to elevate your venue forever. Would you guys be interested in that? So I'm going to have you write down 5 things today as we go along this. I want to say one thing that I heard I absolutely love. Note takers are money makers. Note takers are money makers. Write down these things. Write them down with a pen so they stick to memory. I'm going to tell you the 5 things to write down to start focusing on today to be able to elevate your venue forever. So what is a successful business model? We just went over that. Is it demand really in hospitality, or is it demand in food? Or is it demand in club, right? Is it in golf? Or is it truly in hospitality? I could play golf at a lot of places. There's some places that separate themselves just off their venue alone, but that's called we don't want waterfront syndrome. Waterfront syndrome, I live in California, and I've worked Southern California. I've worked all up and down the coast. Dana Point, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, worked all down the coast. One thing I noticed is that restaurants will sit on the water, and so people want to go eat there, right? Oh, I can look at the water while I eat. And restaurants rest on that laurel, so they have bad food that's really expensive. They have bad service, and they tell you they don't care. Give me a bad review. I don't care. People are still going to come into my restaurant. And I never understood why not crave both? Why not want an amazing restaurant that you're proud of with amazing food and amazing great experience? And those places have lines out the door. The other places survive because of summertime. Another thing, too, is I want you guys to think about this. Thinking like everyone else, average results will get you average results, right? I want to have a paradigm shift today. I want you guys to focus on something. I want you guys to have a different mindset. I want you to leave here with a different mindset. And that's where I go into finite versus infinite mindsets. So, finite. Short term, infinite, long term. So finite is like, I'm trying to get results for tomorrow. I'm trying to get results for today. I'm thinking about today or tomorrow. Infinite is how do we get better? So chasing excellence, that's an infinite mindset. We're constantly chasing excellence. We're constantly chasing it. That's infinite. It doesn't end. We're never going to reach excellence. We're always chasing it. Even when we do reach it, we set a new bar. And I really want people to focus on that. Every time you make a decision, every time you're making a decision, every time you're thinking about something new for your venue, am I thinking with a finite mindset or an infinite mindset? And I'll give you some examples. Apple versus Microsoft. Apple has an infinite mindset. Great example. Does anybody remember the Zune? The Zune was Microsoft's answer to the iPod. So the iPod comes out, and it just skyrockets Apple. It just takes them to a whole nother level. It makes them relevant again. Microsoft slept on it, whatever, no big deal. But as it got more and more popular, bigger and bigger and bigger, Microsoft realized we have a problem. We need to find a solution. So they went to work. They hired the best of the best. They hired all the best people, and they figured out a way to beat the iPod, and they did it. They made it smaller. They made the screen better. They made it faster, had more memory, so it held more songs. And so they beat them, and they came out in the press conference, and they said, hey, guys, check it out. It's a Zune. It's better than the iPod. It's an iPod killer. And guess what Apple came out with 6 months later? The iPhone, right? And just freaking killed the Zune, of course, and killed Microsoft again. And my point is, Apple has infinite mindset. Apple's not competing with Microsoft. Who's Apple competing with? Themselves. And Steve Jobs' philosophy is, we think about what's the best thing we can offer the guest or the client. What's the best thing, the best experience we can offer the client? What can we put in their hand that would benefit their life the most? And then we create the product from there. We reverse engineer. Another one is Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. If you follow me, I talk about this all the time because it's such an easy case study, and everyone knows these two brands, especially Chick-fil-A. And I'll give you an example. Chick-fil-A in 2001 was doing $1 billion a year. Pretty good, right? Yeah? $1 billion? If you guys had a company that was doing $1 billion a year, would you guys be happy? Yeah, they're doing pretty good. But Chick-fil-A knew that there was something more they can do, and they wanted to separate themselves from the competition. So in 2001, they hired the Ritz-Carlton to come in and develop their leadership program, their hospitality program, and their training program. And at the time, everyone said that they were crazy. It was a huge waste of time, huge waste of money. It's a QSR, your fast food. Why would you need that? The model's proven. Look at McDonald's, the biggest restaurant company in the world. They don't care about that stuff. You're offering inexpensive food. People want it fast, and they want it cheap. You have no need for this hospitality piece. But they knew that that was going to be the separator. They had a vision. They believed in it, and they worked on it. Now, 25 years later, Chick-fil-A is worth $25 billion a year. So they added $1 billion of revenue every single year since then. $1 billion. Now, here's the crazy part. KFC does $33 billion a year. So KFC makes more money than Chick-fil-A. But KFC does it with 10 times the locations, which means per square foot, Chick-fil-A is absolutely crushing KFC, any competitor they have. Absolutely crushing it. And if you go to Chick-fil-A's model, which I actually poached someone from Chick-fil-A, one of their executives for my company because I was so obsessed with them. How do they do it? What's their focus? Any guess? Hospitality, but leadership. Yes, hospitality is right, but leadership. They develop their leaders like crazy in order to develop their people like crazy in order to give that hospitality experience. Their number one focus is their leadership development. That's what they're obsessed with. And this one's easy, right? Anybody still on MySpace? Yeah, so MySpace, Facebook. MySpace is like, how do we get more people to sign up, right? How do we get more people to build profiles? Facebook's like advertising. How do we get people to advertise? How do we get people on the platform? They had a different mindset. They had an infinite mindset. That's the difference. So I want you guys to walk away with every decision you make today. Every single decision you make today, is this an infinite decision or a finite decision? Yes, finite decisions are going to be necessary, but we're really trying to think of how we can innovate and be infinite as well. So one really important thing as we walk away from this, I'm telling you, I'm going to give you those 5 things to write down. So write this down. This is the first one. Infinite versus finite. Is my decision I'm making here infinite or is it finite? And even if it's finite, and it has to be finite, how can I also turn it into an infinite decision as well? And I want you to write this down too, because this is the most important thing. Like I said, note takers are money makers, but knowledge is not power. Knowledge with action is real power. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have if you don't take action. So the next thing I want to talk about is the 80-20. Now, everyone's heard this, 80-20 before, but 80-20 is this. All problems are 80% psychological or 20% execution. So basically what I mean by that is that most of the problems that you have right now, where you're like, I can't do that one thing because I need X, I need Y, I need Z. Once I get X, Y, or Z, then I can do that thing. If you actually stop to think about it, if you go infinite, you're going to realize that it's psychological. It's actually solvable, but the next line is really important. It's not about resources, it's about being resourceful. It's about being able to be resourceful enough to do what you need to do with the resources you have. Instead of saying, once I get those resources, once I get that X, once I get that Y, once I get that Z, then I can solve that problem. If you honestly take time to think about it, you can find that most problems can be solved with what you have right now. Has anybody here seen the movie The Matrix? So, The Matrix. Has anybody seen Matrix 2, the second one, Matrix Revolutions? Which one's better? The first one, arguably. No one argues that. No one's like, oh, it's kind of close. First one's exponentially better. I'm telling you this because on the first one, they had a very small budget for a movie of its magnitude. And so the directors had to get creative, and they had to be resourceful. They didn't have the resources, and they didn't say, well, we got to get more money to be able to do what we want to do. I want to execute my vision with the resources I have. And they got super creative. And that's really where a lot of the magic lies in that movie. Because of the way they got resourceful, and the way they shot things, and the way they got creative, and made the movie have a certain look and feel. The second movie, well, the first one did so well, the producers were like, you can have as much money as you want, right? We're going to be successful. We want you to make the biggest, baddest movie ever. But because of that, they lost that resourceful edge. And the result was the movie was bloated, it was way too long, had way too many ideas. The special effects looked terrible because they just had money to dump all this money to dump into special effects, and you got diminished results. So it's really important to be resourceful because some of the best ideas, the best executions, the best game plans come from being resourceful. So again, I want you guys to think when I'm solving a problem and I think I can't, because of X, Y, and Z, really think, is that an 80 problem or a 20 problem?